There's a bunch of detail drops on Ghost of Yotei, which the game is sounding great. Very excited about that, but it's not worth talking about as a full discussion piece. At least I don't think so.
You can wield the Naginata spear.
Yeah, you can get a bunch of weapons in that game, it does sound. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. So, like, they've said this is their most open and interactive world, most player choice driven open world that Sucker Punch has ever done. They're doing like sort of like a Mega Man thing where you've got 6 people that you got to go out and take down, and I think you're gonna get a new weapon style after every takedown.
Probably, yeah.
Something like that. And you can just take them in whatever order you want, which is really, really cool. And then it's also not going to be like experience based. It's going to be like skill based. So like I think like just the more you use a certain play style, you're just going to get better at as you use it and so forth. So
maybe they'll throw enemies at you that are harder to deal with the style that you become used to.
Yeah. So like So I think that is to sort of answer the openness of it. Of like, well, for example. Assassin's Creed games are pretty open. You can kind of go wherever you want, but they kind of like herd you in the direction that they want to herd you via level capping.
Mm-hmm.
So like you'll enter an area, enemies will be like 10 levels above you and will just wipe the floor with you, right?
Not worth it. This one, skill-based.
Skill-based.
So not, enemies
you have equipment to like deal with whatever you got to deal with, And of course it's like a hardcore stealth game, so you can just do whatever you do with that.
And I wonder how that's going to be implemented narrative-wise, because they kind of played around with it in the original Ghost of Tsushima, particularly near the end, with a decision that's in your control. So I wonder if they want to do that more with this next one, because they're already allowing you to tackle the way...
handle narrative choices.
Yes. Yeah. You're deciding which ones you're killing first, and the Ghost of Tsushima played out in a very specific way. It's a linear game.
Yeah.
So they could go... 10 miles with it or stay pretty contained.
Narrative choice is not something that is unfamiliar to Sucker Punch, the infamous series, most pointedly, But those were pretty much, are you going to be good or are you going to be evil type thing. And they could go that route too. It could be like a, do you want to murder them or spare them type thing.
Like Sifu.
Yeah.
Not the same exact... Maybe it's the same way. You have to have certain less obvious conditions, not just choose a dialogue option.
Yeah. But I would kind of like it if, like, let's say they have, like, 3 endings and you could just kind of kill or spare as you did. And it's like, pure pacifist, somewhere in the middle, pure killed them all. And then it just locks you into an ending as opposed to just giving you the choice for an ending at the end like Tsushima did.
Yeah. Narrative-wise, from the trailer, it already seems like there's more than meets the eye. Like, clearly the other guys seem like pieces of shit, but the main villain seemed like he was more sympathetic. Like, it wasn't just... I'm doing this because I'm evil or I want, greediness. He had a reason for it. And then they're including, like, her childhood, where it seems like it's maybe going to be, like, surrealist.
That time... It almost looked like that it was it's a time mechanic.
Yeah.
Where, like, you're going to go back in time for different things, and you can, like... It's, like, put on a button, it looks like.
Maybe it's used for, like, puzzles. Like, you're trying to figure out a puzzle. Your kid self had some interaction with it in the past, and you have to remind yourself... Oh, this is how you dealt with it.
Do they interact with each other? Like,
I would think they would, but
hey, I go into the past, I flip a switch, I come back, that switch is flipped for me now.
They could do that. It depends how fantastical they want to get with it.
Right.
Do they kind of play around with that in Ghost of Tsushima?
Not so much in the main
Not that
campaign. Heavy. There were like flashbacks, but those were pretty set in stone and also set in, like, it wasn't a mechanic. It was just a thing that happened in the narrative.
Yeah.
It wasn't really until Legends came out that they started like doing some like fantastical stuff. But that was like the whole narrative conceit, is that these are the legends that Jin Sakai built around himself to the point to where people didn't even believe it was one man doing it all, which is why they have the different classes, which is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Again, I hope they do something kind of like that in Yotei, but we're going to figure it out.
New free multiplayer.
I really want them to at launch have a Legends equivalent of it. I really hope they do that again.
I think when you had the original Ghost of Tsushima released, it was on a high because people really liked that game. It was one of the more popular games that year.
It was the Game Awards voter pick game of the year. Yeah.
And the Legends came out a year later, less than a year.
Yeah, it was less than.
It was by the time the conversation had moved on. And so maybe if you had
it was like the next calendar year.
Yeah.
But it was like fucking
Within the year.
It was like February, and the game came out in June.
And I think if they, of course, built it around having another a multiplayer baked into it, it could potentially have a lot more of a reach greater heights, get a lot more people playing it if they tie it into the base game.
Yeah, but I liked that Legends was a one and done.
I did too.
Here's
yeah.
the con. Maybe they added like some more weapons or something. I don't remember.
They added some,
but like some small like update stuff, right? But I liked that it was this is what you have. Enjoy it because we're not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and I kind of hope that they do that again. Now, if they want to like also be like, but we're gonna add a second raid or something, or a third raid or something like that, or if like I'm cool with adding more later, but I don't want it to become a thing.
Right.
We talk all the time on this podcast. I miss the days where you had a great single player campaign, and admittedly a tacked on multiplayer, but some of those tacked on multiplayers were great.
Last of Us, Far Cry 3, I remember those the most.
Far Cry 3 did not have a good tacked on multiplayer.
Tacked on. No, not anymore. I mean, tacked on in the same way Last of Us multiplayer was tacked on.
Yeah, but Last of Us was good. Far Cry wasn't.
You're just saying that because you're a
I was going to go
Last of Us fanboy. Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mass Effect 3 had a great multiplayer.
They did, yeah.
Going back to the how each boss fight is handled. Maybe they said this and I haven't looked deep enough, but I kind of hope it's like you have to be in the area for a little while and do some work. Like it's not like a couple of missions thing. I hope it's like we're doing some investigating, we're putting some clues together, we're interrogating folks.
Once again, the time
figure
mechanics.
out where is this guy at. Yeah, and then we play around with some time. Again, I don't know how that works.
Well, she clearly met all of them, and maybe they're not. Again, there seems to be more than meets the eye. Maybe these aren't just random people who popped up out of nowhere and killed her family. Maybe they were, there was build up to that, and that's where you see that build up, and you use that to find out where they are in the current timeline. It's interesting because they can be a lot more fantastical with it, or still be set in reality. And
I hope they go fantastical.
I do as well. Yeah.
I think that'd be way more interesting. Like I know the first game did not put us in that realm really at all.
Yeah.
But I really do hope they do, because I think that's where Sucker Punch is their most interesting, is when they do cool, wacky stuff like that. Like they sort of did with Infamous, like they sort of did with Sly Cooper.
Yeah, especially I remember what pissed me off when I was hearing about news when they were rolling out Ghost of Tsushima. Not even rolling it out, in the the months up to it coming out.
Yeah.
They had touched on the fact that it's set in a historical time period during a moment, and they didn't base any of the characters or stuff off of actual historical figures. And it seemed like, well, if you're going to make a game that's set historically, maybe you should do that.
We're already fictional.
Yeah, exactly. Why not just do whatever you want with it and play around with it? And maybe now with this mindset of, we're not going to be so set in a moment in time, the Mongol invasion, the second Mongol invasion of Japan, that we're going to, play around with it and do something more, magical. But I don't know. I'm more interested in the combat and how all of these, you're clearly going to have more than just a katana. You're going to have, there was the ball, the scythe connected with the chain to the ball. I can't remember what it's called. The naginata, as I was talking about before.
Yeah, bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they do it Mega Man style, where each boss gives you a new weapon,
that'd be cool.
That would be cool. Are we still doing the 4 stances per weapon thing?
I don't think so. If we're having all those weapons,
that's a lot of weapons.
Yeah, I think they're trading it out in favor of that, because remember, Jin was a samurai, so he's learning how to fight like a samurai. She's clearly just part of a clan. It got wiped out, and now she's a ghost.
We got to adapt to different things and so forth.
Yeah, it's not going to be the narrative of Jin's conflicted with this necessity of how to wage war against the Mongols versus this samurai code of honor and lifestyle he had been raised up around.
Right.
It's not going to play around with that, clearly.
As we get closer, I get more excited for Ghost of Yotei.
Yeah. Sucker Punch is interesting with how they're always make amazing games. So, what name one not.
Second Son is just okay.
They make high quality games.
They do. They do.
Quality games.
Yeah.
But
they haven't had a miss.
They've never. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that I can recall, at least.
No. They've never had a miss. Well, oh no, I'm thinking of Insomniac. No, yeah. So Sucker Punch has never had a miss. They've never had a bad game. They've always had bare minimum good. So yeah, I was excited about that. Ghost of Tsushima was fantastic. It wasn't like one of my favorite games ever, but it was really, really good.
And it had a lot of people. It was a lot of people's favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. People adore that game, almost to the point to where I almost feel like it's a little overrated. But Sucker Punch as a studio is so underrated that I'm like, Fuck it,
go.
let them
Yeah.
have one. Let them fucking have one.